ว่าแต่เมื่อคืนก่อนคุณไปเจออะไรมาตายแล้ว
At the start of the movie, a man named Kadir is running, chased by a group of people. After some time, he falls, and mysterious entities appear on the ground, frightening him into moving forward. The group catches up, urging him to go back, but he insists it's not his home. And when they approach, Kadir pulls out a dagger, scaring them, and they ask him not to do so, and the scene abruptly ends. Next, Mit and his daughter May arrive at an old, two-story wooden house in Nongchok, where Boy greets them and mentions having a maid clean the place. He then shows them around and explains that he moved the old furniture to the upstairs storeroom, as the owner requested nothing be discarded. May places her mother Anne's urn on a cabinet, telling her this will be their home for now. Meanwhile, Boy informs Mit that the mesh door is loose and mentions the broken fence, saying the owner didn't want to repair it. Mit notices talismans hanging above, and his dog starts barking. When he steps onto the balcony to check, Boy advises him not to let the dog roam outside, explaining that it's a Muslim area, and some of them don't like dogs. Later, Mit experiences a sudden headache and searches his belongings for medicine, but can't find any. Just then, a door starts shaking violently, prompting Mit to approach the door to close it. But during this, he notices a talisman hanging above it. He removes it and proceeds to take down all the talismans around the house. He then goes to May's room and asks for paracetamol. She gives him the medicine, and as he turns to leave, he spots another talisman there and removes it. May asks, why did he do that? But he stays silent, and suddenly, their dog Bo starts barking. They look out the window and see a man playing with Bo, who notices them watching and then walks away. After the man leaves, Mit and May notice Bo acting strangely, and when they step outside to check, they find a dead bird. Mit uses a talisman to pick it up and disposes of it in a garbage bag. That night, a door in the house slowly opens on its own, then suddenly slams shut, waking Mit up. As he comes downstairs to get some water, he's startled by the sound of a woman laughing, and when he looks outside, he sees several women wearing hijabs passing by his house. Mit returns to his room and sits on his bed, but when he lies down, his shadow does not move, and the shadow moves its head towards him. The next morning, Mit goes to May's room to inform her that his boss wants to see him right away and asks if she can go by herself. May agrees, and he tells her to lock Bo inside the house. Later, at the factory, Mit experiences another headache and unable to find his medicine. Meanwhile, we see that May has hidden her dad's box containing his medications, and in the same box, she also finds a notebook. Later, May stops at a tea shop and spots the same man who had been playing with Bo the day before. But just then, a girl interrupts, and the man leaves the place. The girl introduces herself as Ya and asks why she moved here, to which May explains that her dad works for a factory in the area, and the company provided them with this house, so they'll be staying here for a while. May then asks if there aren't many non-Muslims around, to which Ya replies that Nongchok is often called the Muslim town of Bangkok, but it's not entirely true, and there are also Buddhists and a few temples. Meanwhile, Mit's boss Asano asks him how he likes his house, to which Mit responds that it's fine, and asks how long he has to stay there. Asano tells him that he promoted him to chief, but then he had an accident, so he needs to work hard to convince headquarters that the promotion was the right decision. As Mit listens, he notices the man working in the factory, who is staring at him intently. Now, when Mit returns home, he finds May crying beside Bo's lifeless body. He says, "I told you to lock it inside the house," to which May responds that she did, and Mit asks, "Then how did he get out?" Later, he goes to May and tells her he bought some food, asking her to warm it up. May asks if he's really going to bury Bo, suggesting that temples can cremate dogs, to which Mit responds that he doesn't want to go to a temple again, not for people or dogs. As Mit buries Bo, a man approaches and introduces himself as Marn, living down the street. He says his wife has made curry and he brought some for him. Mit accepts the bowl, and Marn suggests that he should have someone bless his house with a dua, offering to ask the imam for him. Marn then asks if he is burying something. Mit asks, "Don't people keep dogs around here?" To which Marn replies that they don't really. And when Mitt asks if it would be a problem if he had a pet dog, Marn says he guesses it's alright. Mitt throws the curry in the dustbin, and when May asks what he's doing, he replies that someone brought this yucky curry. She asks why he dumped it, and he asks if she could eat it. He then tells her he's sure Bo was poisoned, and asks if she remembers the man from the day they moved in. She asks why, and just then they hear a honk outside. Anne's sister, Noi, tells Mitt that her father wants May to come live with them, and when May asks where, Mitt replies, his old house. Noi explains that she tried to convince her father that the house was his and Anne's property, but the land is still under her father's name, and he hadn't transferred it to Anne yet. Mitt says he never wanted to transfer it, having told him 100 times, to which Noi replies that her parents are still suffering greatly and are still angry at him. Frustrated, Mitt says he didn't drink that night, explaining that the police tested him after the accident and found nothing, to which Noi responds, but they lost their daughter. At that moment, Noi's child calls her over, saying there's something in the birdcage. As they come out, Mitt asks May if she put it there, and she says no. Shortly after, Mitt hears footsteps from above, as if someone is running, prompting him to rush upstairs to check, and May asks what's wrong. Mitt asks May if she heard it, to which she asks, "Heard what?" Noi asks, "What's going on?" To which May says, "Nothing." Noi then asks, "Are you coming back with me?" As Noi leaves with her kid, Mitt spots the man, who runs away as Mitt calls out to him, and when Mitt steps outside, he notices something written on the fence, and quickly wipes it off. Later that night, Mitt suddenly wakes up from his sleep. He sits up in bed, checks the time, then puts the clock back on the table, and in the next moment, a shadowy figure appears on the wall behind him. The next morning, Mitt tells May he still can't find his box and wonders if he left it at their old house. May asks what's so important, and he replies that it contains his pills. She suggests he see a doctor, pointing out that he hasn't had a proper checkup since the accident, and when Mitt asks why, she says he looks like he hasn't slept in days. On their drive, Mitt stops the car abruptly, and when May asks what he's doing, he steps out to confront a man nearby. Mitt asks the man if he works at the Japanese factory, and the man confirms he's in maintenance. Mitt asks what he was doing at their house the previous night, to which the man replies that he thought he might need help burying his dog. Surprised, Mitt questions how he knew the dog had died, to which the man claims Marn told him, but Marn denies it. Mitt notes the absence of dogs and asks if many die in the area, to which the man explains dogs often die from fights, accidents, or poisoning, adding that all creatures, even people, die. When Marn asks why he offered to bury the dog, the man says he was just being kind. Mitt asks what he wrote on the fence, and the man replies, "Dua." Mitt warns him to stay away from his family, but the man cryptically mentions they only followed the devil's instructions, referencing ancient spells from Babylon. Frustrated, Mitt moves to attack, but Marn stops him, explaining that Heem is a weirdo whose dabbling in black magic backfired. Later, at the factory, Mitt's head starts hurting again, and as he looks up, he realizes his boss and boy are watching him. Meanwhile, in the architecture class, the professor tells the students that a house represents life. Life must come first, followed by space, and then objects. A house needs to breathe. It has flesh, blood, and energy, and it must be capable of existing and living even without humans. On the other hand, Mitt follows Heem and finds him drinking beer with his friends. Just as Mitt is about to drive away, he narrowly avoids an accident with a passing bus. That evening, when Mitt returns home, he discovers there is no electricity. He grabs a torch, and just then, he hears strange sounds from above, like the flapping of wings. Perplexed, he approaches the stairs to investigate and spots a woman upstairs. Carefully, he starts climbing the stairs, and after a moment, he sees Bo at the top, who suddenly turns demonic, causing him to fall down the stairs. Shortly after, May arrives to check on him, and as he sits up, she asks if he's hurt, but Mitt tells her he saw Bo, and then notices a bruise on his ankle. The next morning, Mitt finds his pills on the table, and May tells him she found them under the sofa. As he sits at the table, May mentions the chapati with curry from Yoob's tea shop is quite good and shares that Yoob invited them to a merit-making event on Saturday. Mitt notes she's making new friends, and May replies they should be friendly since they're new here. Mitt snaps, "Friendly? Like poisoning our dog and cursing cursing our door? To which May counters that the community is being kind by inviting them. He asks if they really have to go, saying there's no need to make new friends since they'll move out soon. To which May reminds him they need to stay for now, since he doesn't have enough cash for a house yet, and his boss wants him near the machine. Seeing his frustration, she asks if he's okay, noting he looks flustered. Mitt admits the house and neighborhood are getting on his nerves, to which May suggests he see a psychiatrist. And when he protests, "I'm not crazy," she quips, "Not yet, but you're getting there." That night, at Hiem's house, we see him with a similar talisman. He then plays a video on his computer, showing an old woman performing an exorcism on a man. Meanwhile, May is chatting with Ya on her computer, asking her where the Buddhist temple is, and Ya gives her directions. She then gets a call from Mitt, who tells her he's working late and that she doesn't need to wait up for him. He asks her to secure the mesh door at the back by pulling it hard and locking it. As he talks, he is startled to see a hip flask in his drawer, and suddenly he hears Anne's voice on the phone. As he listens carefully, he hears a dog bark, which scares him. Mitt quickly reaches home, worried about May, and sees May running out of the house, prompting him to chase after her. However, we see that May is in her room. Outside, Mitt spots some women sitting with their backs to him, and as he moves towards them carefully, they all stand up. They then turn towards him, and he is horrified by what he sees, causing him to fall into a canal. May then arrives, looking for him, and asks if he is all right, but he is unable to speak due to shock. The next morning, we are shown the house in which a shadow figure appears, and then it is revealed that there is more than one entity lurking within the house. Later, May takes Mitt to the ceremony, where Ya welcomes them and asks May to come sit with them. Just then, Yob arrives and asks Mitt to come upstairs. May asks, "What's the occasion?" To which a girl replies, "Circumcision, right?" And Ya then explains, "It's chopping the tip off, not the whole thing." Meanwhile, Mitt notices that Hiem is missing, and a man tells him Hiem probably wasn't invited. Mitt asks what's wrong with him, and the man explains that Hiem once studied in the Deep South, but no one knows what he actually learned. Marn adds that Hiem was very religious and recited the Quran beautifully, but his curiosity led him to dabble in black magic. Mitt's attention is drawn to the worsening wound on his leg, and a man asks how he fell into the canal, to which Mitt responds that it was dark, and he was clumsy. The man mentions thinking he saw something, but when Mitt asks like what, the man dismisses it, saying it's just an old house. Marn says he told him to have someone bless the house, and Mitt agrees, saying his daughter will bring a monk. Marn warns him not to throw anything away, as the owner is very protective of the inheritance. Mitt notices his wound bleeding, and suddenly, he begins to experience strange visions, seeing the people around him laughing at him, and overcome with fear, he runs away in panic. May goes after him, and Mitt insists that the sound every morning is driving him mad. He tells her that they poisoned Bo and put black magic on them. He shows her the wound on his foot, asking where it came from. But May looks confused and says she doesn't see any wound. Frustrated, Mitt declares he's leaving the house, and May tells him to get a grip, but he insists that Hiem put black magic on them and killed Bo. He claims Hiem has been watching them since the first day, even drinking beer with the guys at the factory, questioning what kind of Muslim drinks. Frustrated, May points out that he also drinks and asks what's wrong with that. She tells him to stop and threatens to call Aunt Noi to come pick her up if he doesn't get himself together. Later, Mitt goes to May and tells her he's feeling better now. He apologizes to her, and she suggests they start looking for a new house or apartment. However, if they really have to stay here because his boss insists, she'll bring a monk. She also asks if he wants a Brahmin as well, but after that, he has to see a doctor. The next day, a Brahmin performs a ritual in their house and sets up a shrine there, and while digging the ground, they find a dagger buried there. May says she would like to keep it, but Brahmin says let him get rid of it. However, May insists she will keep it, saying they told them not to throw anything away. That night, black smoke begins to seep out of the shrine, and the ground begins to shake. Inside, Mitt wakes up drenched in sweat. Feeling unsettled, he sits on the edge of the bed, and his gaze is drawn to the wall, where a figure slowly starts to form, gradually taking on a human shape. The next day, the machine at the factory begins overheating, and no one can figure out why. Mitt attempts to fix the problem, but fails, while Boy manages to turn the machine off. Their boss then shows a flask and asks Mitt if it's his. Mitt takes it from him, preparing to leave, but then he spots him standing there. Meanwhile, May visits a monk and asks if he could come to perform a blessing in their house. The monk says he could, but what he senses in the house operates beyond his spiritual jurisdiction. Later, Ya tells May that someone has hanged from a tree at the end of the canal. She explains that her dad believes it's a curse, and that the man who died is from that family. When May asks which family, Ya says she'll tell her later. Later, Ya tells May that her house used to belong to that family, who moved to the US several years ago. Their relatives still take care of the house, so it was never truly abandoned, though no one had lived in it for years. May asks if it was built on a Muslim cemetery, to which Ya replies no. May asks if Muslims believe in ghosts, and Ya explains that they call them jinns, which protect their houses and don't scare people like ghosts do in movies. May then asks if they can deal with jinns, and Ya says it might sound strange, but she thinks she should talk to him. May expresses her distrust of him, and just then, they hear a noise from outside. Ya asks Marin what's happening, and he replies, another dead body. That evening, May visits Heem, explaining that her father is sick and suspects Heem of using black magic on him. Heem tells May that he doesn't put nails or buffalo skin into someone's stomach. He dismisses black magic as cheap and vulgar, asking why he would do that to her father. May mentions that Ya said he could help them, to which Heem suggests the best way he can help is by telling her to move out of the house. When May asks if he dislikes having non-Muslims around, Heem responds that non-Muslims have lived there before them, and asks if she's ever seen his wife. Heem explains that her father threw away things he shouldn't have, and built something that shouldn't have been built. When May asks what he means, Heem refers to the talismans and the shrine, explaining that the house had been under control until they arrived. He claims 2 people are now dead, and the situation has become a problem for the entire community. Heem adds that he wrote a protection on her fence, but her father wiped it off. May asks what they should do now, to which Heem advises her to move out, revealing that her father has been suspended anyway. Now, when May returns home, she spots blood on the floor. She quickly rushes to Mitt's room and finds him crying in pain. As she approaches him cautiously, she's shocked to see him cutting his foot with a knife, prompting her to rush forward and stop him. Later, when Mitt regains consciousness, May informs him that Heem is taking them to someone who can help him. Mitt says he doesn't trust Heem, to which she responds that if he doesn't trust Heem, he must trust her. Mitt notices a hanging in Heem's car and asks about it, to which Heem explains it's the Quran. Mitt says it won't save you, and shares that his own car had all kinds of amulets, yet none of them worked. He asks if the Quran contains an exorcism spell, and urges Heem to recite it now to save them the trouble of traveling south, because, in the deep south, you're either killed by a ghost or a bomb. May mentions that Ya spoke about jinns in the house, to which Heem explains that jinns are living beings, neither human nor devil. He adds that Thai people refer to them as Kwan, guardians, or house spirits. Good jinns help humans take care of their homes, while wicked ones collaborate with Satan to deceive people, particularly those with weak minds. Mitt comments, "Just call them ghosts," but Heem clarifies that while you could call them ghosts, jinns are not the spirits of dead people returning to haunt the living, and Mitt's shrine cannot ward them off. Mitt asks, "So ghosts have religions too?" Saying, "I thought only humans killed each other over that." May interrupts, asking what's wrong with her father, to which Heem says he let the bad jinns mess him up. The next day, they arrive at a hut deep in the forest, where Heem reminds Zainab who he is, and she asks why he's there. Heem explains that they need her help, revealing they recently moved into the house. Zainab responds that the house is well protected, so there shouldn't be any issues, to which Heem counters that there are, explaining that Mitt threw away the talismans and then built a shrine. Zainab says she's no longer a witch doctor, but Heem presses on, informing her that 2 people have already died. May then asks, "What's wrong with that house?" To which Zainab replies, "The house is one thing, but her father, he won't recover just like that." May says, "But Heem said she could get rid of the jinns," to which Zainab acknowledges, "Maybe, but her father has to deal with his own issues first." May asks, "Fix what?" And just then, an explosion rocks the hut, and a shadowy jinn manifests over Mitt, who collapses, groaning in pain. Then, in a demonic voice, the jinn declares he killed his wife, so I won't let him live." Heem and May rush to restrain Mit as Zainab approaches. She prays fervently, places her hand on Mit's forehead, and commands the djinn to leave him. She then presses a tasbih against his forehead, forcing the djinn out of his body and driving it from the house. Now, when Mit regains consciousness, Zainab asks what they have done, and the scene then flashes back to the past, showing captives, including Kadir and his friend Mud. Kadir expresses a desire to return home, but Mud asks why, saying there's nothing left there. That evening, the master notices Kadir performing a ritual, and one of them claims Kadir is a sorcerer and Mud, his apprentice, explaining their friend was possessed by a forest spirit. The master warns to be cautious, fearing they might escape if given the chance. Kadir later tells Mud that he can perform the ritual next time, to which Mud says he might become their shaman, as it's better than fieldwork. Kadir asks what he means, to which Mud reveals he wants to stay, arguing the land is fertile and they could make it their home. Kadir calls him shameless, but Mud retorts that Kadir uses black magic, speaks to jinns, and claims to believe in God, yet practices dark magic like an infidel. He says he is a hypocrite and shameless. Angered, Kadir accuses Mud of begging soldiers for leftover moonshine, to which Mud retorts that he has no right to judge him, and the two begin to fight. The next day, Mud informs the master that Kadir and some captives are planning to escape, to which the master orders his soldier Shan to bring Kadir to him. They chase after Kadir, urging him to return, but he draws a dagger and calls upon Iblis to curse the land, condemning the infidels and their servants. Mud pleads with him to stop, but Kadir ignores him, cutting his hand and letting his blood fall to the ground before they finally restrain him. Kadir is captured and brought before the master, but remains defiant, cursing the land of the infidels and their servants. Mud pleads with him to stop, accusing him of denouncing God, but Kadir retorts that he only wants to go home and condemns Mud for betraying their people, vowing they will never live in peace for 1,000 years. Mud gets up and steps aside, and the master orders Shan to execute Kadir. Shan complies, beheading him, and when the master asks what Kadir did, one of the captives explains that he placed a curse on him. The master asks if Mud can undo it, but Mud refuses, and instead, using his black magic, he kills the master and his soldiers. Afterward, they bury Kadir along with his dagger, and Zainab explains that Mud suppressed Kadir's curse with his own magic and took over the master's house. However, the next day, more soldiers arrived, drowned the rebels in the canal, and brought their own shaman to neutralize the spells. Zainab explains that the land became tainted with layers of curses, hatred, anger, and vengeance. Over time, a new master married a Muslim girl, and the land was passed down through generations. Aware of its dark history, each generation performed rituals to suppress the curses of Kadir, Mud, and other shamans. Zainab warns that shrines can attract both benevolent and malevolent spirits, including God-defying jinns seeking refuge. But that's not all. Mit has allowed the bad jinns to possess him, his grief making him vulnerable. She urges them to leave the house immediately, as she cannot help them. On their way back, Heem tells them they will stop to pray for a few minutes. After he leaves, May takes out a notebook from her bag, and Mit tells her that's her mother's sketchbook. May says she found it in the same box where she hid his pills, and she started sketching one picture every day, just like her mom used to. May shows Mit a sketch of him that her mother made for their anniversary, and as he looks at it, memories flood back, and he recalls the night they had the accident because he was drunk. May confesses that, at first, she was upset when her mother married him, but seeing how happy she was with him made her happy too. After a while, Heem returns and informs them that they'll spend another night there and leave early in the morning. He tells them they can decide what to do once they're back in Bangkok. When Mit wakes up the next morning, he feels surprisingly at ease and much better than before. That evening, when they arrive at their old house, they are shocked to find that Noi has sold it. May begins to reminisce about her childhood, recalling the memories she shared with her family in the house, and in frustration, Mit removes the sold sign from the gate. They return to the Nong Chok house to retrieve Anne's urn, and May tells Mit to get the urn while she packs. As they do, there's movement on the ground outside, causing the shrine to crack and a powerful wind to blow. Inside the house, everything begins to shake, as if an earthquake is happening, and Mit slowly moves toward Anne's urn. But just as he reaches it, the urn falls, and he collapses to the ground as well. Mitt composes himself and manages to come out with Anne's photo. And during this, May gets devastated seeing her mother's broken urn and begins to cry. As she weeps, a djinn appears behind her, but just then, Hiem knocks on the door, asking her to open it. She opens the door and tells him that her dad is gone. Hiem brings Zainab inside, who tells May to go find her dad. After May leaves, Hiem notices the dagger on the floor and picks it up, and Zainab, sensing the presence of the djinn, tries to fight it off, commanding it to leave. And after a tense moment, everything suddenly becomes quiet. When they come outside, they find the djinns hovering over the shrine, and Zainab turns to Hiem, asking for his help, saying she can't face this alone. Meanwhile, May finds Mitt and asks why he came out there, but he only keeps crying, holding Anne's photo to his chest. Suddenly, a face appears on the ground, terrifying Mitt, though May sees nothing. Moments later, Mitt is shocked to see Anne standing in front of him. In a trance-like state, he gets up and begins to move toward her, apologizing. May tries to stop him, telling him that it's not Mom as she's dead. Mitt collapses to his knees, and May continues, explaining that their mother is gone and will never come back. This triggers a flashback where Mitt is happily celebrating his birthday with his wife and daughter. May brings him back to his senses, and he embraces her, causing the djinn to disappear. Meanwhile, Kadir's ghost appears and uses its powers to lift Zainab into the air. It taunts her, saying that since she serves the infidels and defies God, she is no different from him. It accuses her of abandoning her faith, believing in other powers, and staring into the black hole of Satan and Dajjal, which now stares back at her. Kadir then throws her to the ground and reveals its true form. Hiem, in response, pulls out the dagger and stabs it into the ground. He begins to pray, and Zainab, grabbing her tasbih, joins him. Kadir rushes toward Hiem, attempting to distract him by continuously chanting, "I curse the land of the infidels and their servants." Hiem takes the Quran from his bag, holding it between them as he continues to pray. After a tense moment, Hiem overpowers Kadir, calming it, and sending it back to where it belongs. Hiem then checks the soil beneath the shrine, which crumbles into dust and blows away in the wind. He then discovers Kadir's jaw and remarks that Kadir's anger is his curse. He hands the jaw to Zainab, who tells Kadir that this is not their home. After wrapping the jaw in her scarf, Zainab tells Mitt and May that Kadir is her ancestor, and she is here to bring him home. The next day, an imam recites dua in their house and blesses it. During lunch, Mitt asks if it's safe for Zainab to go back, mentioning he heard about another bombing in the south, to which Hiem replies that it's Zainab's home, so she has to go back, no matter what. Later, May and Mitt sit peacefully in their home, when suddenly a loud noise shakes them. The camera pans upward to reveal a door opening by itself, and the birdcage begins to shake, and the movie ends here. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a scare. Until next time, stay spooky.